looking at how to solve things where I just have an x term. Now we're going to move into when I have something where the x term is being squared. And so we have to use a different strategy in order to solve that. And so we're going to use something called the zero product property to do that. So looking at the top of the page, suppose three quantities x, y, and z when multiplied have a product of 0. What does it mean when you have things multiplied to 0? One must be 0. One of them is 0. So in short, if two or more things are multiplied and have a product of 0, then one or more of the quantities must be 0. This isn't true for any other number. I don't know what one of the numbers has to be. Think of it like I have a lot of things that multiply to 20. It could be 1 and 20, or 2 and 10, or 4 and 5, or 1/2 and 40. I don't know specifically what one number must be. But if I'm multiplying to 0, one of those things has to be 0. And because of that, this is known as the zero product property. And it's particularly handy when we combine it with something called factoring in order to solve. Factoring means that we're rewriting something as a multiplication problem. Rewriting as multiplication, which is helpful because then if I multiply two things and they equal 0, I know one must be 0. So how are we going to solve this? We're going to collect all terms on one side of the equation using adding or subtracting. The other side should be 0. You can only combine like terms. So first goal, get equation equal to 0. Then we're going to rewrite the side with the terms in standard form, which means basically that you have your x squared term, then your x term, and then your constant. Don't worry about the ABC part for right now. Then we're going to factor that side, which means to rewrite as multiplication, and we're going to spend the next 2 weeks learning different ways to factor. We're going to set those factors equal to 0 and solve the remaining equations. So let's look at our first example. We need it to be equal to 0, which it is. It's already been factored because it's been rewritten as multiplication. So now we're going to split it, set it equal to 0, and solve each of the equations. So x plus 4 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. And now we have two itty-bitty equations to solve. So minus 4 on the left, and we get x equals negative 4. Minus 2 on the right, and we get x equals negative 2. So I have two solutions, negative 4 and negative 2. In example 2, it's already equal to 0, and it's already factored. It's rewritten as multiplication. So we split, set equal to 0, and solve. So we're going to add 8, x equals 8, and then we add 2, so x equals 2. So my two solutions are 2 and 8. The last example, we're equal to 0. We're rewritten as multiplication, so we split it, set them equal to 0, and solve. 3x minus 1 equals 0, and 2x plus 3 equals 0. So my first equation, we're going to add 1 to both sides. 3x equals 1. Divide by 3, and I get x equals 1/3. Minus 3 for the next equation. 2x equals negative 3. And divide by 2, so x equals negative 3 over 2. So my two solutions now are 1/3 and negative 3/2.